All right. I think we can get rolling here. So appreciate everyone hopping on to this press conference here after what was really a very exciting day for NASCAR. Day-long engagement with our fans, which is exactly what we had hoped for and what we really thought about when we were rolling out the schedule here today. Lots of exciting announcement. Really the biggest schedule announcement in 50 years. Most new tracks since 1969. And today we have to talk about it. NASCAR Executive Vice President Steve O'Donnell and NASCAR Vice President Ben Kennedy to join us, answer all your questions, and we'll be able to take questions for about 30, 40 minutes. So appreciate everyone logging on at this hour, and thanks to Steve and Ben for hopping on. So Steve, I'll kick it off with you. Obviously, a lot went into creating the schedule, arguably the most unique and dynamic schedule we've had in quite some time, at least 50 years. Maybe talk about some top-line thoughts about the schedule and all the work that went into it. And I think you're on mute there, Steve.
There we go. Thanks, Mike, and want to certainly welcome all the media. Appreciate y'all being on with us. I hope everybody continues to stay healthy. 6 more weekends to go, and knock on wood, we've been good on that. So as Mike said, hugely exciting day for NASCAR and really everyone involved in the industry. We said back really in 2019 that we wanted to evolve the schedule. 2020 was going to be a year where we can make some moves within the portfolio of races that we had, but really 2021 and beyond, where you're going to see some really bold changes from NASCAR. We believe we've delivered on that. We're excited for our fans. It's an historic schedule, as Mike talked about, the most changes since 1969. All of that couldn't have happened, however, really without the cooperation of the entire industry. Even if you throw COVID in there, I think it probably helped spur some decisions. It helped spur some of the changes that you've seen in the schedule in a good way. So we were really able to pivot and do some really neat things for the industry. A lot of cooperation from our broadcast partners, our track operators, certainly our race teams, as well as we look ahead for 2021. So the primary goal for us was to continue to evolve the schedule, to continue to build it, to continue to listen to the fans. 2021, we believe, is a really bold step in that direction, but we're not done. There's 2022 and beyond, where we'll continue to look at making changes that we believe are in the best interests of the sport in key markets and key iconic racetracks as well. So we're going to continue the journey. And I know Ben Kennedy is going to walk you through the specific changes, but again, really appreciate everybody joining us, for being patient with us as we got to this announcement, and look forward to seeing everybody this weekend, or at least saying hello virtually at Talladega.
Thank you, Steve. And to that point of the many changes, Ben, maybe walk us through a couple of the major significant ones, and there were several. So can take us through a few of those in your mind that are some of the most exciting for our fans, would you?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And to echo Steve, thank you all for taking some time today and supporting our sport. Certainly to your point, Mike, earlier, a historic day for us, and a lot of bold changes. I think you saw this really as we went and started building out the 2020 schedule initially. Got to carry a lot of those over into 2021. So from the playoff schedule, Martinsville night race, Pocono doubleheader, we're able to retain a lot of those, but also a lot of significant changes as we think about 2021. Really 9 significant ones that we have announced today. So 3 new tracks that we're going to, world-class facility at Circuit of the Americas, an iconic and historic facility at Road America. Nashville Super Speedway, certainly an incredibly important market to us. If you guys were there for the banquet last year, certainly neat to see such a big turnout from the fans. Bristol Dirt, another big one and big shakeup to Fox's portion of the season. We'll see that in March. Indy Road Course, and I think we saw a great Xfinity race there earlier this year. We'll get to see the Cup Series head there in August of next year. 2 races at both Atlanta and Darlington, certainly important markets to us when you think about the roots of our sport. Really where we come from, a lot of fans there, certainly a lot of our partners being based out of those regions as well. The All-Star race moving to Texas and to close out Fox's portion of the season. And then last but not least, the Clash moving to Tuesday night and on the road course here across the street at Daytona. So certainly a lot to look forward to when you think about 2021. And to Steve's point, a lot to look forward to. And, you know, as we think about future evolutions of the schedule too, this is certainly a big and important step for us, but continuing to press forward with it as well.
Thanks so much, Ben. All right, we'll kick it off to media questions now. If you have a question, please raise your hand using the chat function or using the Zoom function. If you can't click the raise the hand button, feel free to ask a question over the chat. We do have what looks to be 79 participants right now, so presumably a number of those have questions. So we do ask that you keep it to one question per call. And if we have time to take follow-ups, we're happy to do that. So we'll wait for the questions to get assembled here, and we'll kick off with Mike Solarte. Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks very much. This is a question for Steve. Steve, it is a radical shift. It's a lot of change. Is it too much change all at once where you lose Chicagoland, you lose Kentucky, you add in more road courses? It just seems like you're throwing a lot of things into, and it is bold, but is it too much, do you think?
I don't at all. I think it's an exciting change. I think when you look at the opportunities that we've had to pursue a lot of the new markets, iconic racetracks that our OEMs have asked for, our race teams have asked for, our fans have asked for. You know, it's certainly unfortunate that sometimes you have to move races out of markets to be able to do those things. We still have loyal race fans in those markets. We tried to keep in proximity, you know, with new races and new events that fans could go to. But for us, we believe it's exciting. We wanted to be bold. We've had a really solid year this year to continue building on that momentum. And we think the work that Ben Kennedy's done by leading this really continues us on that journey, not only for this year, but we're going to continue to be bold in 22 as well.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Claire B. Lang. Go ahead, Claire.
Yeah, this is for Steve O'Donnell. Great new additions to the schedule. What were the decisions when it came to closing the schedule out for some tracks? Like, did NASCAR think long and hard about that? When we see tracks going away, it's sort of shocking, even though we understand to make change, you have to have that happen, you know?
Yeah, I think, Claire, it's a very fair question, but it's a balance. And you look at some of the things we were criticized for in the past, probably somewhat fairly in terms of, you know, going away from our roots and moving races away from a Darlington, moving races away from an Atlanta. So it was important for us to introduce new markets, but also embrace what got us to where we are. And I think you see a really great balance of that with our schedule, where we're able to go to some iconic racetracks, certainly with Road America, COTA, the change at Indy, Nashville, but 2 races at Darlington. You know, our whole industry loves Darlington. Atlanta, you know, we used to have a championship in Atlanta, now going back there twice. And so for us, it was a real balance of trying to kind of embrace the old and also look at some new things. So a lot of change, certainly, for sure, but we believe it's a good balance for both. And you know, Ben was at the forefront of doing a lot of that. So Ben, I don't know if you've got any comments to add on that as well.
I think that's spot on. You know, I think to your point, Steve, certainly wanted to be bold with the schedule and you know, really shake it up. And I think the move to Atlanta and Darlington, I think will be and has been so far well accepted. You know, we'll miss some of those areas, but at the same time, you know, not running in Chicago, still have a lot of great tracks in the Midwest region. Now we've got Road America just up the road, Michigan, Kansas. Same thing for Kentucky as well. So really looking forward to heading to Atlanta and Darlington and a number of these other events that we're announcing today.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll go to Alex Andrew. Go ahead, Alex.
Hey guys, this is a question for either Steve or Ben. I was wondering about the All-Star race specifically and the move this year from Charlotte to Texas. Why in 2021 did this feel like the right time to do that?
I'll jump in. As you can see, I'm playing the role of David Hart. I'm actually out in Texas right now where we just had the All-Star announcement. And I think this is an event that Eddie Gossage has always asked for. And he said it today that, you can't steal one away from his boss, right? Marcus Smith, but Texas is a huge market for us. It's always felt like an all-star market and does big events and does them well. So when we looked at the totality of the schedule and talked to Marcus Smith and the ability for us to potentially get to COTA, in order to do that, we wanted to be in Fort Worth and we wanted to be in Texas twice as well. And how could we do that? And the All-Star race felt like a natural fit. We're very comfortable with what the track will do here. You'll certainly see us probably add some things and some tweaks to the rules for that race. But for us, it's a good fit, big market, and expose some of the great fans out here in Texas to the All-Star, not only the event, but the festivities around it.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Bob Pockers. Go ahead, Bob.
For either one who wants to take it, you talk about wanting to get to your roots. And so, going back to Darlington, Atlanta, but Michigan is a track that has deep roots. So why take a race away from there?
Sure, I'll take that. We're still in Michigan, Bob. And I think if you ask our race fans where do they want to see the sport, they want to see us as many tracks as possible where we can showcase the sport. Unfortunately, we only have so many dates. So for us, we're going to make that a terrific event in Michigan. We're obviously our OEM partners, 2 of them are there. So it's an important market to them. But in order for us to continue to expand the portfolio of NASCAR, these are some of the moves that we need to make. But we think we're making the right ones to iconic facilities.
Next, we'll go to Dustin Long. Go ahead, Dustin.
Thank you. Steve, you mentioned at the beginning that you said that this time the COVID-19 pandemic kind of played a role in kind of speeding some changes along. You already talked about, the plan was for big, bold changes. How did things get spurred even further during this time because of COVID?
Yeah, so I'm going to give Ben a lot of credit here, and what I mean by that, Dustin, is when you look at 2020. We had a really small group of people that was led by Ben. It was Ben Baker from our broadcast team and Scott Miller, really to find out how the heck do we get back racing in 2020? Where can we race? What are the facilities that would even open up? And so that process allowed us to not only think outside of the box in 2021, but have Ben also push the group on, okay, if this potentially works for this year, why not next year? Why not beyond? Why couldn't you go to Darlington twice? Everybody seems to love it. It's close by. Our fans love it. How do we make that happen? Small example, Miami, right? Man, racing at Miami is terrific. Okay, what if we moved it to the second race? Pretty good momentum when you go from the 500 to what will be a good race in Miami. So it really helped us kind of spur those discussions. And I think the biggest thing it did, Dustin, is, some of these decisions probably would have been made for 2024, 2025. And it was, let's go, let's do some things now. Let's be bold and let's learn along the way. But we think we ended up in a really good place.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Jeff Gluck. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, for Steve or Ben, whoever was more involved with this, but, at the start of the revised schedule, the midweek races had a lot of momentum. It seemed like people were really excited to see how they worked out. Then it seemed like maybe the TV ratings weren't there for them. And obviously we see on this schedule that there's no midweek races. So I guess what happened with those and what do you think the future of midweek races could be?
Ben, you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah. No, I think, to your point, Steve, I think 2020 was a good opportunity for us to shake up the schedule a little bit, try some midweek races, try some more double headers. I think we saw certainly some excitement around it. But really, as we looked at the 2021 schedule, I think in an effort to get a lot of people to the track, get that weekend experience Friday to Sunday. And really a lot of people are accustomed to tuning in on Sunday afternoon. They have it set, on their cable box and tune in at, 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So I think that was really important to us from that perspective and really continue to drive that forward. I think as we look at future schedules, it'll certainly always be on our mind, but for now, wanting to stick to Saturdays and Sundays.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Jordan Bianchi. Go ahead, Jordan.
This question is for either Steve or Ben. 2021 has always been the goal. You guys are going to make a lot of changes or trying to make a lot of changes for this year. Looking forward, though, to 2022, do you still want to make big changes in terms of the volume, or is it going to be kind of more of a pick and choose, maybe one or two, changes, that year and then maybe going forward?
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I think, to that point, and it's a good question, I think 2020 was kind of this next evolution of really starting to think kind of boldly about the schedule. 2021, obviously a lot of big changes this year. But really, as you think about 22 and beyond, I think even when we set out to build out this 21 schedule, we want to make sure that whatever we're doing, it's done with a very measured approach. And I think that's what you've seen in this schedule as we put together. So 22 and beyond, of course, we want to continue to, introduce more tracks to the circuit, especially, short tracks and road courses, always important to our fans. I think you guys saw a little bit of that with the Auto Club announcement just a few weeks ago. So we'll certainly keep our eyes on it, and, we'll continue to look at making bold but very measured changes.
Go to Lee Spencer. Go ahead, Lee.
Thank you. Congratulations on quite an innovative schedule, gentlemen. Just wondering about the Northwest. Have we kind of given up on that area, which is very underserved at this point as far as NASCAR goes?
So no, we haven't given up, but I think you heard Ben just talk about it. This is kind of a journey for us. So you look at that marketplace, Lee, as a potential, but when you look at existing racetracks, if there are, those potentially take time. So we're going to look within kind of our existing portfolio. You saw California, bold move if we can make that happen. Look at some other maybe tweaks within the existing tracks of layouts. But I would say the Northwest, if we can get there and it's the right time and place, we would certainly do that. But we want to make sure it matches kind of, as we go forward. One of the things we're going to look at is that balance of race tracks, short tracks, super speedways, intermediate, low downforce, high downforce, and road courses, and make sure we've got an even better balance as we continue to evolve the schedule.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Adam Stern. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey guys, thanks for the time today. For Steve, we saw that obviously there weren't any street circuits on the schedule for this year. We know you were talking to some potential candidates there, so why did you ultimately decide against adding any of those for 2021, and does that become a potential goal to add for 2022?
I think it's certainly still a goal, and conversations are still ongoing. One of the big things we learned as an industry through COVID is, the ability to own racetracks or have partners that have existing facilities gives you a lot more flexibility in terms of your schedule. You saw us be able to be really nimble in terms of, hey, we can't race here, we got to move to Darlington. We're in trouble at this racetrack, we got to move to Charlotte. So it really enabled us to be able to pivot. We've got great working relationships with the tracks who have been on our schedule for a long, long time. So our view was, let's work with them. Let's make changes with them. They understand how important it is for us to be bold. If there's an opportunity where there could be a partnership going forward with one of our existing tracks to perhaps move an event, we'll certainly explore that. But I think our primary goal now is to work with our existing partners that we have on the schedule, see how that plays out. Where an opportunity may come up, we're certainly interested to having that dialogue for sure.
Next up, we'll go to Jerry Jordan. Go ahead, Jerry.
Steve, you in the past you guys have been non-committal on COTA, but it seems everybody's really excited about this. How bad did you guys really want to get to COTA and see the Cup cars there and make the changes with the All-Star race, things like that? Was it just a come together so that, or was this goal that you guys had anyway?
So you kind of broke up a little bit, but I think I got the crux of the question of COTA, and we haven't been kind of overly enthusiastic, hey, we're going there. And I think the reason you heard that from me probably specifically was we had a really good partner in Texas Motor Speedway. So to be able to go to COTA, we did not want it to come at the expense of Texas. And I think the ability for us to bring the All-Star race to Texas and then also have a race at COTA was a home run. And when that idea was brought to us, we felt like this is the best of both worlds. Texas, a ton of race fans. Toyota just moved here. A huge marketplace for us, our television partners. So to be able to come to the state 3 times was a big win for us, and that's why you see the enthusiasm, because it's a marquee facility, and it really matches now where it's additive to our schedule versus when we looked at it before. We thought it might have been more of a challenge.
Next, we'll go to Woody Kane. Woody, go ahead.
This one's for either or, both if you'd like. I'm interested in practice and qualifying. What is your current thinking about what might go direction you might go there next year, and what have you learned from this year that will play into that decision?
So we've certainly learned a lot this year. You know, most of it good in terms of some efficiencies we can see, but you know, we want race fans back at the track, right? We want race fans to see qualifying and practice, but we also know that as we look forward to 2021, there's still an unknown. And the race teams have asked us, and we've worked closely with them. It's worked for us too and our television partners to be as efficient as we can in 2021 on our journey to the next gen car. So what you'll see us do is a combination, Woody, in terms of what we're going to deliver for our fans. So at any of the new tracks or new configurations, we will have practice and qualifying. So if you look at, and our 2 marquee with Daytona, so you look at Daytona 500, Bristol, Dirt, the Coke 600, Nashville, COTA, Road America, Indianapolis, and then Phoenix. Those will all be kind of your typical practice qualifying. The others, we're going to take advantage of what we learned during COTA. The fans tune in and they like iRacing, and it's pretty cool. And what can we do around that content? You know, drivers with their helmets off, you know, people seeing drivers in a different world, follow documents. We've got some of the best in the business with our group out of Charlotte. So doing some things that put the fans kind of behind the scenes and hopefully bring that access to them, some virtual, but as much as we can deliver and deliver on some of the things we learned throughout the 2020 season.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Greg Engel. Go ahead, Greg.
Well, hi, guys. Woody kind of stole my thunder. He asked the same question that I wanted to ask. Thank you very much, Woody. So let me ask you this. Talking about the new things you've learned from COVID this year, how prepared are you going to be to pivot on a dime? And none of us want this to happen, but if the infection rates go up and they start doing closures again, do you have a plan B if that happens? And have you decided which packages are going to be used where yet? Thanks.
So we'll both answer that one. On the packages, we're going to break up kind of, let's just go on the intermediate track. So you saw us go with the low downforce package on the short tracks. We added Phoenix. The additions that you'll see for next year are Darlington and Nashville. When you look at Darlington, it was kind of one of those, you know, in-betweeners, and in working with the drivers, felt like going ahead with a low downforce package next year at that facility will work well. The others we're really happy with in terms of the high downforce package. We've seen some really good racing. So that's kind of the model that we'll employ. And then I'll let Ben talk about, I think he had version 1 through 90 for this year. So if you're asking if a guy's ready to pivot and has backup plans, Ben, what do you say to that one?
Yep, 85 versions. We've only had 39 on 2021, so we came in under budget on that side. But no, I mean, I think, you know, to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, I think this year is a testament to not only us, but the industry being able to pivot on a dime. As you think about COVID, you know, certainly we've talked about this before, wherever we're racing, we want to make sure that it makes sense for that area, that community, and for our sport at the end of the day. So we'll certainly be ready for all scenarios that are thrown at us. To Steve's point earlier, certainly a lot of unknowns, a lot of uncertainty around, you know, not only the rest of this year, but 2021. So we'll certainly keep tabs on everything and stay fluid with it.
Next, go to Mark Garrow. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you. Gentlemen, you know, the midweek races, the doubleheader weekends, there was talk when these were done, not only to help you guys, all of us, get back on schedule for the playoff, but maybe perhaps at some point able to shorten the season but have the same number of events. So we've arrived at a new schedule. It's basically the same time. Was there any thought into shortening the schedule, or is there any thought of that in the future?
So that's been discussed, but there really wasn't at the end of the day, Mark. Our television partners, especially, are really happy with the fact that NASCAR carries the season from February all the way through to November. And candidly, we're happy with that too. I think the break that you're going to see with the 2 weeks due to the Olympics will be cool for the industry. You know, allow some folks. We didn't get to have that this year due to COVID. We certainly learned some things with the double headers and the midweek races, but back to Ben's earlier answer, you know, our sport is also built on kind of that big event. It's not just the race, it's the entire atmosphere around a race weekend. So we never even got to experience that at Pocono. So let's try that again. Let's see how it works. Let's see what we can learn. You know, as we evolve 22 and beyond, we're certainly open to looking at more. You never say never to shortening the schedule. But it's important right now for our television partners and honestly for our tracks with the weather and everything to kind of keep the schedule and you know, February through November that we have now.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Kellen Buddy. Go ahead, Kellen.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Appreciate it. Guys, either Steve or Ben, going off of Bob's first question about Michigan, I spoke with a couple fans that go to both or used to go to both of the Michigan races. They were hoping that, you know, maybe a second weekend would come back to Michigan. Is that something that you guys have considered, or is it too early to consider the future at Michigan right now?
Yeah, I think it's early. You know, this will be the first year. What I would say is it is a very important market for us, always has been. And so as you look at, you know, the schedule as it exists today, right? Darlington, we moved a race. We came back. Atlanta, we did that. We came back. So it'll certainly be a facility that we know we have the potential to go to. We've got a lot of Canadian fans who come down to that race too. So you know, I think we'll be there and we'll make that race, you know, an important kind of milestone on the calendar as well.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll take a question from the chat here. Jeff Cox from WGXA in Macon, Georgia. Can you discuss adding a second race to Atlanta Motor Speedway? What was that process like and what was involved to get them the second date?
Ben, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll take that one. You know, I think that one, we talked about it a little bit at the top here, but, you know, again, Atlanta being an important market to us, not only from a fan perspective, but having a lot of our partners there, Coke just down the road. You know, certainly a place that you know, really we want to continue to be in the future. And, you know, testament to SMI for kind of cooking up this one, working with us and the broadcast partners to make sure that this makes sense. You know, they really want to create a lot of energy and excitement around Atlanta Motor Speedway, around that track. So, you know, really working hand in hand with them and really pulling that one together.
And next we'll go to follow up to Bob Hockris. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I'm not sure who answers this, but I mean, we know Speedway Motorsports is doing COTA. Road America, did Road America buy a date from you guys, or are you guys renting the track? Can you somebody explain to me the arrangement there, please? Thank you.
Yeah, NASCAR holds the sanction for the Road America date. You know, through Chicago. So. You know, we'll partner with Road America to run that date, very similar to how SMI is partnering with COTA.
Thank you.
We'll go with another follow-up to Jordan Bianchi. Go ahead, Jordan.
This is for either Steve or Ben. Looking at the schedule ahead, what is the ratio of intermediate tracks to short tracks to road courses that you guys would like to see ideally?
So I think we're on the journey to a balance. And you look at, you know, as Ben talked about 22 and beyond, we talk about California, the potential there. We're going to get closer and closer to where I think you could see, I think now it's, you know, 13 or so intermediate, you know, you're up to 6 road courses. You know, you've got short tracks in there. So, you know, I saw some chatter about, you know, the number of road courses. Is NASCAR just going to become a road course circuit? No. I'd say, you know, we're really happy with the number we're at now. Could you see us maybe add 1? Sure. But I think the focus will be on trying to have that balance throughout super speedways, intermediates, with kind of the low downforce, high downforce road courses, and then short tracks. If we can have that, somewhat balanced across the board, we'll be really happy with the schedule. We already are. We think it's the most challenging in terms of, race tracks and iconic venues that we've ever had, and we're going to continue to build on that.
Go to a follow-up to Jeff Gluck. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, for either of you, obviously, the Brickyard 400 is now gone, so one less crown jewel on the schedule. Was that a difficult decision at all when it came down to thinking about that?
I don't know how it's one less crown jewel. The Brickyard, we're going to be running the road course. It's crown jewel, and I don't know if you saw the Xfinity race. It was unbelievable, but we fully expect the Cup race will be the same, and I think it'll be a crown jewel on the 2021 schedule for sure.
Next, go to Daniel McFadden. Go ahead, Daniel.
Hi. So we know that the second Atlanta race is going to be 400 miles. Can either of you discuss like where you guys are at on deciding the distances for races next year?
Ben, you got that one?
Yeah, I think we're certainly, working through that, to your point on Atlanta. I think certainly looking at all options, and even as we think about the second Darlington race, I think we saw some great racing earlier this year, especially when we kicked off our season. And this year is really an opportunity for us, as we talked earlier, to try some different things, not only from a midweek and doubleheader perspective, but different race lengths as well. So certainly something we'll look at for 2021 and beyond.
Next up, we'll go to Eric Johnson. Go ahead, Eric.
Really appreciate your time this afternoon. I know you all have talked about making bold moves in terms of the schedule. Could you speak to the decision-making in terms of making Bristol a dirt track there?
Sure. And I've seen some commentary about Bristol about, oh my gosh, what are you doing? I think those same people may have said that about the college football game where there was 110,000 people and it was an absolutely unbelievable event. So, Marcus Smith approached us about the idea. I think everyone, loves short track racing, but if you look at where we've been from a capacity standpoint for that event, the track wanted to look at reinventing what we could do for that weekend and keep some momentum going for the sport. When we talked to our television partners about that, probably the number one thing they wanted to see was, can we make that happen? And so we all got together, we worked with the race teams and said, let's give this a try. A lot of work still to go into this, Eric, in terms of, what the rules package will look like, what the format will look like. But I can tell you it was important for us to give this a try. We're going to put our best foot forward. SMI has a history of doing some things bigger and bolder. And we feel like we're going to be able to pull this off, and it's going to be exciting for the fans.
Thank you.
Do a follow-up for Dustin Long. Go ahead, Dustin.
Thank you. Steve, just kind of follow up on Bristol. I know you just kind of reference it, but I'm curious, when you look at format for Bristol, is it your hope or NASCAR's hope to have it more like the traditional dirt track race with heat races and so forth, or because this would be a cup event, it would be better to kind of have it be in essence like every other weekend? Are you open to the idea of something like you did with the trucks, or because it's cup, it's better to just leave as is?
No, very fair question, Dustin. I think we are open to it. Our next step, what we've told the teams is let's sit down together. Let's talk about what we believe would be the best format to have the most excitement and still showcase, every one of our race teams, and how do we do that in an exciting fashion. So, we've got some drivers who've got a lot of experience on dirt and are going to be pretty vocal on what we need to do. And we've got some others who are new to it and are going to kind of, dip their toe in the water. So we'll get everybody in the room. We'll beat it up like we did with the stages and hopefully come out with something that our fans are really happy with. It's easy to understand, and especially dirt fans as well. It'll kind of mirror what they're used to seeing also.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Steven Toronto. Go ahead, Steven.
This is a question for both Steve and Ben. I wanted to ask about the addition of additional races to Darlington and Atlanta. With the desire to enter some new markets, I found it odd that there were some races added to additional markets. So is there a possibility that those two races could be placeholders for potential races in new markets, or is there a commitment to having two races in at those particular racetracks?
Yeah, I think our intent, and listen, nothing's forever, right? We all know that, but our intent as we put it together was to get back to two races at both those markets. Speaking of Darlington and Atlanta, those are what we believe are iconic markets for NASCAR. And we've learned along the way in terms of, some changes we've made that have worked and worked really well, and some changes that, our fans said, hey, I miss some of the old NASCAR and some of those venues that really kind of built up the sport. So our intent is to balance the schedule out and keep those marquee venues, i.e. Darlington and Atlanta. And as we look to expand or make some changes, I think it could potentially be some of the other facilities that are on the 2021 schedule.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll go to Kelly Crandall. Go ahead, Kelly.
Thank you. For Steve, you made some folks pretty happy this morning by tweeting about low downforce at Darlington and Nashville. So I was just curious what went into making that decision to switch Darlington to low downforce, and could there be any other tracks that we might expect to change from high downforce to low downforce?
Yeah, those are really the only two. We're actually really happy with the high downforce package as we've seen it at the other facilities. When we looked at Darlington specifically, it was kind of right in between. Very similar to kind of the move we made at Phoenix. We went with high downforce, and if you kind of go back on, our mindset, we wanted to have one rules package throughout. Or we actually wanted to have two at the time, but we ended up kind of with one throughout. And through the work with the industry, we were able to tweak that and start to kind of mix and match where we felt like we'd have the best racing possible. And Darlington was kind of an in-between. We went there kind of fingers crossed, let's see what will happen. You saw a couple races there, some good, some, not as good as we would have wanted to see. But the feedback was, low downforce, we really believe will put on the best race at Darlington. So that's why we pulled that lever. And then Nashville Super Speedway, it kind of mirrors Darlington. We've been there before and feel like that gives us the best chance to go out and really put our best foot forward in a new market.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll have time for two more. We'll go to Lee Spencer and then wrap with Dave Coleman. Go ahead, Lee.
Thank you. Just curious, Steve, what's the latest status on Iowa? And when you were moving the All-Star race around this year and apparently next year, mix in the future for some sort of cup event.
Broke up a little bit. I think it was the status of Iowa, and I missed the last part of that.
As far as getting Gateway in some sort of a rotation moving forward, I mean, going back to the question that was asked, I think, too, earlier about, having placeholders where you might see us introducing Cup to new markets just to try to build up that fan base. What's the potential as far as perhaps getting Gateway on the list somewhere down the road?
Yeah, I think with Iowa, we've certainly got a number of fans in Iowa, loyal fans, dirt track fans, a lot of short track racing fans, but it's been a challenge for us in terms of that racetrack. So, when we looked at potential markets for next year, obviously you can see the decisions we've made and where we want to be. And as you look ahead for 22 and beyond, Gateway is certainly a market that's caught our eye. We've raced there a long, long time. The location of the track, certainly right next to St. Louis, a lot of potential for us. We like what the track has done and what they're doing around a lot of their diversity efforts as well. So there's a lot of kind of parallel paths that we're working on and something that does have interest to us in the future for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we'll wrap with what I assume will be a Road America question from Dave Coleman. Go ahead, Dave.
How would you ever guess that, right? The 4th of July has all that history tied up in Daytona Beach, and there was a lot of fanfare in moving to Indy for the 4th of July. So how did you end up at Road America after 1 year of Indy there? And the second part of that, I guess, is what's the status of Xfinity with that?
So the man who made that happen is Ben Kennedy. So Ben, you gotta take that one, bud.
Yeah, no, it's we're really excited about Road America. You look at the track, certainly an iconic track to us, and I think we've seen some really good Xfinity races there. Personally, I had the opportunity to run there for a number of years, and such a cool facility. Seen 11 winners over the past 11 years there. So always exciting racing from that perspective. And I think having it on July 4th weekend, it just felt like such a natural fit to us. You think about everything that goes around and everything that's synonymous with that weekend: camping, cooking out, really Americana. It's synonymous with Road America and the July 4th weekend. So placing it there really made a lot of natural sense. And I can tell you, talking to the track out there, they're certainly really bullish about it. They're excited about it. They really want to lean into this and make it something special. So looking forward to that. And, I think as far as Xfinity goes, we'll follow up in the next few weeks or so and announce our Xfinity and truck schedules. Working through a lot of things there, and, a lot of things that will obviously reflect off of this Cup schedule, but we'll keep you guys posted as we get closer.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Well, Steve, Ben, thank you so much for your time. Congrats on this fantastic schedule and the great announcement today. A lot of exciting stuff. And to all the media who have hopped on here, thank you so much for your time, your coverage. Got 6 races to go in 2020. Looking forward to 2021, but we still have the playoffs. So if you're going to Talladega, please have a safe trip. We'll see you down there.